Hello YouTube, my name is Pat. Welcome to Outsider Reviews, and this particular segment is called Outsider Talk. It's where we step aside from doing our vehicle reviews, take a little break from that, and talk about the automotive industry as a whole. This week's segment, we're going to talk about EV adoption and what it's going to cost you guys, the consumer. So let's get right into it. Right away, we're going to talk about the elephant in the room. EVs are more expensive right off the bat. If you compare them to their gas counterparts, they're just more expensive. That gap kind of depends on which vehicle you're talking about. You can take a look at the Kona EV and, of course, the Hyundai Kona. And if you spec them out, you could get as much as an $18,000 difference. Now take the Chevy Blazer RS for example, which just came out with an EV from stop sell to sell. So now you can buy a Chevy Blazer EV, and the gap is actually about $10,000. These are all Canadian prices, by the way. Obviously, it differs in the United States. The gap is roughly between 7,000 and can go anywhere to 12 to $15,000 US. Now that's a big cost to absorb, and that's why there's rebates, however confusing, but they differ from state to state, and they also differ from province to province here in Canada. And you always have the federal one, which differs from manufacturer to, you know, where the battery components are from or how much the car is and how much your income is. So I'm not going to dive into the particular rebates for now, not all of them anyways. I will address them at the end, but we're just going to stay focused on the upfront costs minus the rebates to start with. Now, that's not the only charge you're facing up front, because if you buy an EV, more than likely it's because you have the luxury of charging at home. Those home chargers are not exactly free. Again, there's rebates for those. Some offer them, some don't. So they vary. Their chargers could go anywhere from $500 for a regular charger to $1,000 for the Ultium charger from GM, which also has a rebate for it. So they vary in price. On average, I'd say with installation, if you're getting a professional to install it, which I recommend, you're looking at about a $1,500 cost. Right away, that's something you don't have with internal combustion engine vehicle. You don't have to fork out that kind of money to install a device at home. Now, stay with me. I'm just going to go through all the extra costs first, and then I'll break down the cost savings. So, aside from that is where all things are not equal, insurance. Now, insurance varies again by driver, but it definitely varies when you buy an EV. If you buy an EV, you could be paying as much as $600 more annually for an EV than you would for the exact same vehicle, gas engine. Another item that EVs cost more in than conventional vehicles is tires. Now that's been in the news. I actually saw a CNBC news report on this or investigation on this, and turns out tires wear out about 20% faster. I'd say that's also depending, because I've seen vehicles wear out faster than that and some slower, but EVs do wear their tires out much quicker than internal combustion engines, and that is due to the weight and to the amount of torque, because they are fun to drive. They are quite peppy for the most part and very fast. That's due to not having a lag, but I'm not here to sell you on an EV. We're just talking about the cost of it. So you're looking at changing your tires 20% more often, and the tires themselves are actually 50% higher to buy. So if I'm going per tire, and we're taking a regular tire for an internal combustion engine, the price varies, but it's anywhere between $100 per tire to $200 a tire. So that's not too bad. However, with an EV, you can't just buy any tire that you would want. It has to be for that weight. It has special kind of EVs. They have special kind of tires for EVs, and those go from $270 per tire to $370. So you can see that the price can climb up pretty fast, and it's not cheap. Now, why is everybody saying that EVs are a lot more cost effective, a lot more economic? Well, we'll get to that. But on average, I'm telling you, tires between 7 and 10,000 miles is the average life of an EV tire. Or in Canada, between 11,000 and 16,000 kilometers. So you can see that's what they mean by they wear out 20% faster. Now, before I go on to the flip side of that coin, I'm just going to remind you, if you're enjoying this video so far, please like and subscribe. It really helps us out for this channel. I'm just a military veteran that now does car reviews. I'm a vehicle enthusiast. Really love what I do, but I can't do it without your support. So like and subscribe, and thank you. So moving on to the flip side of the coin, because I've been telling you how much it's going to cost you more to buy an EV, and I hope you're keeping track of all this. But now we're going to start negating some of these extra costs. First off, we're going to start with the outright cost. That's between anywhere $10,000 to $18,000 difference that you're paying extra. Well, there's rebates, right? There's a $7,500 rebate in the U.S. on certain vehicles. I'm not going to go down that list. This video is supposed to be shorter. And in Canada, you have that $5,000 rebate. You also have different states like Colorado and such, and they offer their own rebates. And in Canada, each province offers their own rebate, anywhere between $4,000 to an extra $5,000. So you can see how that initial upfront cost is dwindling a little bit. So you could definitely come up to maybe $5,000 more than its counterpart very easily. But then again, you have that upfront cost of anywhere between $1,000 and $1,500 of installing a home charger. And like I said, annually you have an extra $600 for insurance. Here's how I negate the $600 oil changes. Now, for somebody that drives a lot of kilometers like me, so it's going to vary depending on your case, but I basically do oil changes every 2 months. And where I live, price of gas and oil is extremely high, which means I'm paying about $100 per oil change. That's right, $100 per oil change, and this is just for a crossover. We're talking a Mazda CX-5. Great car, but still, every 2 months, $100 oil change equals $600. So bam, I've just compressed my extra insurance costs to zero by these savings. So the point of the EV though is, hey, it's got to save me more money. And right now we're still have a substantial amount. We're about $6,000 higher than it would have been for internal combustion. Well, that's where the kilometers and the fuel or electricity cost comes in. Now, if you do the more kilometers you do, the more you're going to save. So I'm going to take my particular scenario. I average out 100 kilometers a day, or 62 miles. So I average out about 62 miles, and my fuel costs can go anywhere between, depending on the vehicles we have, because we test drive vehicles and we actually keep them for the full week, so it depends on their efficiency. But I'm gonna go with, it cost me on average anywhere between $500 and $600 in gas per month. So you can see how, for my area, because gas is so high, how that will affect my decision of whether I'm gonna ultimately go with an EV or not. So if I go with an EV, my cost goes down dramatically. We're talking about $110 a month. So I just went from potentially $600 a month to $100 a month, or $500 a month to $100 a month, whichever. I'm saving approximately anywhere between $400 to $500 a month. Now, these numbers you might say are not the numbers you're getting, and that's because, well, the cost of gas is probably lower in your area and your cost of electricity is probably higher. I live in the province of Quebec. Quebec is notoriously high for gas prices. We're like well above $5 a gallon. And for electricity, well, we are the lowest in the country. So compared to the States, I have a friend there. He says I pay about a third of what he pays for electricity. So not all things are equal. EVs are not great for everybody, but this is how you can start to understand why adoption in Europe and especially in my own province is very, very high for EVs, and that's because it makes sense, a lot more sense for us. And then you have to factor in the fact that brakes require less maintenance. I have to change my brake fairly often. I live in the mountains, and EVs don't utilize the brakes as much because they have regenerative braking, where the motors do it for you, and your brake pads are basically spared from that. And that's another way of gaining power and stuff. And I'm not gonna go into how EVs operate. Just check out our EV reviews for that. We just did an EV9 not too long ago. Great vehicle. But aside from that, if we're calculating the costs, not all things are equal. It's not great for everybody. It's not great for every area. It's definitely depends on where you live, what your economical situation is, and what you're trying to gain out of this. Now, you could be somebody who just wants to be better for the environment, and that's great. Now, I'm going to cue right now. A bunch of people are going to comment. Actually, I watched something that said that EVs are not better for the environment than internal combustions, blah, blah, blah. Long term, they are. It's not a debate. I'm not debating this. I'm just telling you, EVs are greener. There's no way that internal combustions, with especially the transportation of fuel to the gas stations themselves, producing emissions. We're not going to go on this rant because this is not a outsider rant episode. It's an outsider talk. Now, just to summarize everything that I've been talking about, where I left was basically an EV could cost anywhere between $5,000 and $8,000 more. When you apply rebates, when you apply what have you, the average is about that. It's still costing you more than internal combustions, and the OEMs know that. But they also gonna pitch you, like you go on any websites, for example, Kia around here, they have a projected fuel savings calculation down there to try to convince you to switch to EVs. Now, I am not against EVs. I am all for EVs. I actually love them. I'm actually considering them, but I'm also considering the logical numbers. I have to pay between $5,000 and $8,000 more to adopt the EV. And then I have to calculate how much am I going to save? How much am I going to spend on tires, for example? The fact that, I would get tires regardless. It's just I have to change them more frequently, and I have to pay a lot more. Now, with everything that's new, I'm sure the cost will end up leveling out and decreasing gradually. We've already seen it. EVs now have gotten cheaper than they were a year ago. And I just don't think that right now it's that obvious of a statement to say everybody will save money. EVs are more economical for everybody. They are for me. They are in my personal situation, but they may not be for you. Now, just let me know if any of those costs surprise you or if you think any of my calculations might be wrong. Comment down below. Like and subscribe if you're enjoying the content. Even if you're not enjoying, please support us. And until then, we'll see you later.